Welcome to Streams of Income, hosted by best-selling author and entrepreneur Dr. David Powers, where we discuss streams of income, passive income, residual income, and even why there are dinosaurs and zombies in this intro. Fasten your seatbelts and get ready to dive in.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Next Pi Education Hour. We are still working our way through Home Business Tax Savings Made Easy by Ronald Mueller. So this next section, and by the way, if you haven't seen the previous sections, all these are kind of standalone. You can apply what you need, pass off what you don't need, what doesn't apply to you, or get some amazing ideas to reduce your tax burden. And so I know as I record this, we are nearing, you know what? I'm going to go turn that alarm off. Let's do that, David. Well, that was a tiny bit embarrassing. I had an alarm on my phone and forgot to turn it off. If you're like me, a parent of multiple kids, and you've got kids in afternoon, evening sports, I've got 3 in different sports right now. And if you don't set alarms, you forget to take your kids places, or even worse, you suffer through the embarrassment of forgetting to pick up one of your kids at an event, and then you pull up, and it's kind of like a walk of shame for a parent. When you're pulling up to pick up your kid and your kid is the last one there and the teacher has had to wait with them and call you and say, hey, is somebody else picking up so-and-so today? No, it's me. I forgot completely. I completely forgot I had another child that wasn't in the house. Yeah, it's embarrassing. So set alarms. There's a little tip for you. But the section we're going to deal with today, or where was I at? Oh yeah, I remember now. Okay. It completely threw me off track. And I have a window right here in my basement where I can see out. It's a walkout basement. And literally there are squirrels running around and they're very distracting. Sometimes the donkey will walk up too. And so very distracting. So let's get back to where I was at. As I film this episode, and you're going to be listening to it at a different time probably. But it is nearing the end of tax season. So what is it, April 14th? I'm not even sure the date because I always do my taxes early. I look forward to doing my taxes because of lessons I've learned in this book and other places. I really do look forward to doing my taxes. But you might be thinking, Dave, it's not tax season. When I'm hearing this, I don't really need this information. Well, here's the thing, is there are a lot of things with a little prior planning that you can do in your business to save you bundles of money. I saw an H&R Block commercial last night for their software and their AI assistant, I think it was, and they've got a mascot and everything now. And the lady and her husband were sitting on the couch and he was saying, I wonder if we can deduct these braces for our kid. And the answer is yes, it's a medical expense. But she was saying, I wonder if I can deduct all my crocheting materials. And the answer is also yes, with some planning and an understanding of how deductions work and what you can deduct them for. It just depends. You got to do certain things. If you don't do certain things, you'll end up in trouble. And with that, I always have to say, I am not a tax professional. I'm not an accountant. Don't pretend to be. I'm not an investing professional. I'm not an attorney. I don't work for the IRS. So consider all of this as bad advice. In other words, hey, Dave, that sounds good. I'm going to research it for myself, maybe ask a professional before I do it. So here's the thing, though. I'm not a professional. I'm just offering you some advice from the book. But don't consider the advice from all your tax professionals to be solid gold. It isn't always, because most CPAs and tax professionals, I've met very few who aren't anything more than rule followers. In other words, I don't know about that thing, and so it must be wrong. I prefer the kind of tax professional that is like, oh, okay, Dave, where'd you hear about that? Send me the reference, send me the resource. I'll look it up, and if it works, we'll apply that to your taxes. That's the one that I like, and that's the kind you need to find. Most of them aren't that way. Most of them are just going to go by just the bare minimum that they know, and there's so much in the tax code, they can't know everything. And so let's dig into Chapter 4. The title of this chapter is Determining Your Business Deductions When Your Business is Based in Your Home. So this may not apply to some of you because this one is specifically about the home-based business section. But, all right, remember that all those non-deductible personal expenses we discussed, reclassifying as tax-deductible business expenses. Well, we cannot write off 100% of those expenses because, after all, we do live here as well. And so you can write off some of them. Like, this is my office. It's in my basement. This is where all the magic from up here gets translated into books and content, other things like that. And so let's see. There are 3 categories of expenses and different methods for calculating each. The only 3 terms you will need to understand are indirect expenses, direct expenses, and business assets. All right, so let's define those. Indirect expenses are indirectly related to your home business. Rent, utilities, and general maintenance, like replacing the roof, repainting the exterior, things like that, are indirect expenses because they're indirectly related to your business. You would have had to do it whether you had a business in the home or not. But since you do have a business in the home, you might get to deduct a portion of that. And so you have to figure out what's called the BU, or the business use portion of your home. And you're going to compare that to BUP, business use percentage, but you're going to compare that to the rest of the home. Like in my home, if I'm not mistaken, because of what I do with this business, partly what I'm talking to you right now is part of my business. I also operate a farm out of my house. The farm, of course, is surrounding the home. But the business use of my home itself, I think, is 21%. So almost a quarter. So we've got, farm office, storage areas, my business office, things like that. And so lots of storage, though, because we've got to have areas to do indoor seed planting in the cold months, to grow some things in the cold months, and year round, even like a little greenhouse. And so my situation is a little different. Chances are most of you will not have anywhere near that high of a percentage. Because of that, though, also because I operate different businesses out of my home, my tax forms and reporting gets a little bit complicated. Like, for instance, I have to do a Schedule F, which is for farm income and expenses. And so most of you are not going to have to do that. But I highly recommend pretty much anybody establish a small farm, because there are so many more things you can do by establishing a small farm. And by small, I'm talking you can actually classify indoor portions of your house as a farm. You can have a garden. It depends on what you're doing with it. I mean, you could create a farm for tax reasons out of several garden beds, things like that. You can get a farm number, which also opens you up for USDA loans and financial assistance and grants. Loans you got to pay back. Grants are pretty awesome because it's like free money. And so having a farm number and operating an actual active farm. What I'm trying to tell you, though, is that it is a very loose description in most areas of what actually classifies as a farm. I've known some people to actually operate income producing farms from apartments with small balconies and whatever they're doing inside the apartment. I'm talking legal stuff too. I'm sure some of y'all may know some people that operate illegal farms out of their garages and things. We're not talking about that. Because you'd have a harder time claiming that income and those expenses. Yeah. Grow lights for marijuana in states where it's illegal is not a good thing you want to put on your taxes. All right, so let's see. To qualify for a home office, you now need only to pass one of 3 tests. Your home office must be. So you only have to pass one of 3. So number 1, where the primary value of your business is delivered. And so I meet that one. I meet number 1 because almost all of what I do, in other words, primary value, is online. And so it's delivered. My desktop's over there, laptop, that's what I'm talking on. Sitting at the desk, there's the stand-up desk, reference books. Primary value for me is obviously from right here. All right, number 2, where you regularly meet with customers or prospects. I've known people before that, and I've actually taken, me and my wife, taken some marriage counseling in someone's home, a home office in their home for marriage counseling. And so occupations like that, therapists, counselors, coaches, things like that. If you regularly meet with customers or prospects in your home, that can classify as a home office. If you're, I've seen construction companies where the construction office was in the garage or it was one of the rooms in the house, and they would actually use their house as their showroom. And that's a really neat way for a company to make some tax deductible things, improvements on their house. And this is just me spitballing here because you definitely want to check this stuff out with your accountant and talk them into actually checking it out. But the person I knew had a construction company. They used their home as their showroom. And so in other words, I don't know, just let's say they install awnings, like window shade awnings, that kind of thing. And so guess what? If their business installs new awnings on the house because it's a showroom and they're trying to show it off, that kind of makes it a marketing expense. They're building onto the showroom to produce income. And so that's just a unique way that I've heard this this used before. And so you can kind of brainstorm that and see how you might be able to use it as well. All right, and number 3, where the primary administration or management of your business is conducted. And that one, here's what Ron says in the book. Number 3 is the default setting. Almost everyone operating a legitimate business from their home can qualify under option 3. Now, for me, I meet both 1 and 3. Obviously, number 2, with what I do, I don't have customers come to my home. Because most of my customers are spread out all over the world. And so I don't hit number 2, but I only had to meet 1. And so, but like you say, number 3 is the default setting. Pretty much anybody, if your laptop is, the headquarters of your business, so to speak, the brains of your business, and the primary use, what's the wording again? Primary administration or management. So if, this and the laptop are the primary administration and management of my business, and it's done from my home, which it's being done. For you, that would work. That would work. All right, let's see. All right, so for computing the business use percentage of your home, let's start with this. Option 1. You can measure to get the square footage of each finished area in your home. So that means your unfinished attic and unfinished basement, those don't count. Add up all those areas and divide that total into the square footage of the home office. And the result is your BUP. That's what I did. I took the square footage and even some of the storage areas are included in mine, or sort of, they're included in the farm section. But that's how I did mine. Or option 2 is what Ron's calling an IRS clarification. Let's see. In a clarification, which means it's not the official IRS code document, but it's in a clarification document that was produced, the IRS said, if all rooms of the house are approximately the same size, and one of those rooms is used regularly and exclusively for business purposes, say an extra dining room or one of the bedrooms or garage, the taxpayer may use the percentage of the number of rooms used to calculate the BUP. In other words, if you have 5 rooms in the house, one of them is your home office, there's your 20% BUP. Now, I think you're probably always going to come out better, though, with the square footage of the finished area. I don't like clarifications with the IRS code because it's not as readily known by IRS agents or accountants. And so if you're going to ever use any IRS classifications, notes, info sheets, anything like that, official documents, yes. But if you're ever going to use those, have those documents handy, or at least the numbers handy where you can refer back to those, because sometimes you may need to prove that you were in the right, even though it should be their job to prove. If they think you're wrong, they should prove that you're wrong. Now, sometimes it's your job. It's interesting sometimes. All right, so let's see. Let's move on a little bit. And so let's see. Oh, here's one that Ron mentions. I think I mentioned this in another class, specifically with wedding photographers. But here's an interesting use that Ron mentions. If you have bookcases in your living room or den containing only, and he's got only in bold, business-related books, your BUP calculations can include the square footage occupied by that bookcase. Plus, this is in bold as well, plus a reasonable amount of walking space around it. Of course, the bookcase itself may also be a tax-deductible business asset, which we will discuss soon. And so I used the example previously because I actually heard Ron mention this in a seminar I attended of a wedding photographer. And basically what this wedding photographer did She would bring clients to her home, which meant, which one was that? Do you remember? That was number 2. Regularly meet with customers or prospects in the home. So she had an office, and the office where the computer and big books of just a portfolio, so to speak, of weddings that she had done, that kind of thing. But here's the catch. She also would put wedding portraits, pictures she had taken, things like that, in the hallways on the walls. And that was all that was in the hallway. In other words, an entire wall of nothing but photos she had taken at the wedding. And so that kind of falls into that bookcase example where the wall itself, the square footage, and a reasonable amount of walking space to view them. And so this is just me. And I don't know that this is in a document anywhere, but I kind of use the 3-foot rule. If I'm standing in front of a bookshelf or a wall, I need to be able to walk up to it broadside, not squeezing by like you're trying to squeeze through 2 boxes or something, but broadside, walk up to it, turn around, move around, that kind of thing. 3 feet. 3 feet plus the wall section. That's a square footage right there. All right, here's another one Ron mentions. If you have a conference table in a section of your den, and the conference table is used regularly and exclusively for meeting with customers or clients, you could also include the square footage occupied by the table and chairs around it, plus walking space around it. So just 2 examples, plus mine with the wedding stuff. And so, Ron's got a thing here. Oh, okay. He's I got farther in the book, and guess what I saw in Ron's here? He's saying here is an extreme but real example, and guess what he's talking about? It's that wedding one that he mentioned, and so he calls it product display areas, and so that's pretty cool. Let's see. All right. He says you could potentially write off the majority of the square footage of more than one room in your house if using each of them is reasonable and necessary. And he's actually got IRC section 280A. So, I mean, he's got this cited in here. So let's see. Here. Moving on to, he's just got more examples here. I'm trying to move on to the section where he talks about direct expenses. There we go. Direct expenses. And so direct expenses, we just covered indirect and the BUP. Direct expenses are expenses directly related to the conduct of your business. And so this could include office supplies, telephones, necessary media subscriptions, magazines, antivirus, Photoshop, things like that. Cell phones, employee benefits, repair and upkeep of exclusive use areas. That means areas of the home that are 100% for business. So for me, it's this area, 100% for business. So if I repaint my entire house, inside or outside, the entire house, I can deduct a percentage, my BUP, and deduct that from my taxes. But here's the thing. Let's say I only repaint my office. Let's say, because a lot of my branding, well, I don't have one of my Rugged Dad shirts on, but most of my branding has orange in the logo, in the type, all those things. My VA came up with a great thing for me with the color codes and all that. Orange. And so let's say as I'm doing this podcast, I want to rebuild those bookshelves because I'm in an old farmhouse. I've never liked those bookshelves. They work, but they're ugly. Always having to dust them, and the dust just it clings to that kind of wood and the paint and everything. So I don't like them. I also don't necessarily like this white fireplace behind me, and it's not even a usable fireplace. I've got it all covered up with an Indiana Jones poster. Let's say I wanted to paint all that orange for my branding. Well, this is the 100% exclusive part of my home that is for business. And so if I'm just painting all this orange and over there's orange and there, that wall is orange, I can deduct all of that expense because it's only in the part that is 100% exclusively used for business. That would be a direct expense. All right, so let's see. Business assets. That was the third category. He mentioned business assets. And so business assets include equipment, just how you think of assets with any business, home office or not, equipment that and furniture. And so, I've just got an old desk here. This desk actually came from my grandfather, and so I didn't buy it. It was given to me after he passed away. But I'm sitting on an office chair. I've got filing cabinets. I'm just looking around at what I've got for office furniture. This is a smaller office, but in my dream office, I'm actually wanting to have a small conference table and a couch. And so one of these days when I build my dream office, I'm going to have that. And so that office furniture will be a business asset. And so I can deduct that. Now, you will need to be careful how you deduct assets. There are certain rules that apply to asset deduction. And so use your computer software when you're doing your taxes or consult with a professional to find out how to do it. Now, let's see. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and stop right there because now we're getting into some crazy stuff about what if you sell your home that you've been deducting. Let's see. And he's got a worksheet over here for calculating your business use percentage. He's got a list here for let's see, typical home-based business expenses. And so, you know what? I'm going to read through this list, and then we'll actually be through with chapter 4. And so I'm going to read through the list. Hopefully, this will give you some ideas of things that you can start deducting or thinking about differently. For instance, well, you know, I might give you some specifics as I go down through the list. All right, so mortgage or rent. It doesn't matter if you own or rent. It's still the same. Most businesses don't own their offices, but they still get to deduct that. So mortgage or rent. Of course, utilities, gas, electric, water and sewer, trash collection, house cleaning. You know, if I have an area that, just some things there. If I have the whole house cleaned, that goes according to the BUP. I can't deduct all that cleaning money if it's the whole house. But let's say my kids clean the house, but I hire a professional cleaner to come in and clean my office because customers meet in my office, then that would be a direct expense. That's different. Deck treatment, driveway repairs, security alarm, repairs and maintenance, business supplies, postage, subscriptions, internet fees. Let's see. And some people, that internet fees is one that I use one internet system for the entire house, so for personal and business. And so the cost of my internet goes according to my BUP because it's an indirect expense. Now, if I needed my own system for my office because let's say the kids were playing games and it was always killing the internet strength because I'm kind of off grid here with rural Wi-Fi. And so let's say they're playing games, it kills the strength. And so I buy my own subscription for just my office, my own password, my own network, everything. That would be a direct expense. That would be different. Let's see, books and magazines, professional literature. For instance, I just last week subscribed to Homestead Living. It's a professional magazine for homesteaders. And so that's professional literature, books, magazines for my farm. That's going to go off on the farm taxes. Phone bills, asset purchases, things of that nature. And so he does end this chapter by saying there are dollar amount limits on some of the deductions. And I'll be honest with you, I have run into that with some of the deductions, especially if I do something big in a particular year. But my tax software actually accounts for that. I just enter the numbers, tick the boxes for the right things, and it calculates that for me. And at some point, it'll say, you've reached the max limit of deduction for this thing, or, it'll do depreciation, all those kinds of things. All the things that a lot of people hate and or don't understand about taxes. And so I hope you've gained something knowledgeable from this. I hope this helps you. My main goal with all these classes is that you'll understand taxes a little more so that, number one, it's not as scary. And kind of a sub point to that is you don't have to fear an audit every time you think about the IRS, whether it's tax time or you get a notice in the mail. I mean, I've got a lot of consulting clients, and so I get IRS notices because some of their things are routed to me because I handle it for them as a consultant. And so I get IRS notices 30, 40 times a year. Some people, every time they get an IRS notice, they get that pit in their stomach and they start shaking and be afraid to open it and all that kind of stuff. I get them so often, and I'll be honest with you, 99.9% of the time, it's some type of an update form. It's asking me to re-update an address. It's asking me to confirm an address. That's almost always what it is. And so I don't want you to fear the IRS so much because you're doing things that are legal and right. And here's the thing. Even if you get audited, that's always been a bad word. And, well, I can't dispel that. It is a bad word. Whether you're being audited by an insurance company, an accountant, the IRS. But I don't want you to fear that so much. Most audits are handled through nothing but paperwork. I actually, I retain a law firm that does a lot of work for me with consulting and business, and so I have access to a tax attorney. And so the great thing about that, to alleviate any fear of mine if I ever get audited, is the first thing I'm going to do is send that letter to the tax attorney. And most of the time, they're going to answer the IRS back and either answer the questions or answer it back in a way that says, "Hey, this guy has a tax attorney. He's already paid for one. He's got me on retainer. You sure you want to pursue this? How about we try to work this out this way?" That's what happens. That's never happened to me. That's kind of what I hope would happen. But I have heard of that happening with some people because the IRS, they do so many audits a year. Most of it's settled with paperwork. Very little of it is settled with what you hear the horror stories about, where you're going to have to spend hours and hours and hours, and you know, an auditor's going to come to your house and you're going to have to hand them your nasty, ugly shoebox full of receipts that you've been accumulating for 15 and a half years and things like that. That is most often not what happens. And so I don't want you to fear the IRS. Number two, the reason I'm doing all this, I want you to save money. I want you to pay the taxes you legally owe, but I want you to keep as much money home as you can. Here's the thing about taxes. Most people, when I'm saying most people, I'm talking W-2 employees, they'll loan the IRS money all year long, i.e. taxes from your paychecks because your deductions are all screwed up. And then they hope to get a refund at the end of the year. Now, most people look at that refund as if it's some kind of a spring bonus or a gift or something like that. It's not. It's not a bonus or a gift. It's money that you've loaned the IRS all year long because your deductions are screwed up and because you don't run a business. Now, here's the thing. Even if you're a W-2 employee, I counsel everybody I talk to, start a business. Start a business for nothing more than for tax deductions. And also it makes for an extra side income. I mean, it'll help you set up something for if you retire, get injured, decide you hate your job, get into a fist fight with the boss in his office one. I mean, so many reasons you should have your own business and have that up and running before something bad happens. And so that's kind of, don't fear the IRS, keep more money home. If I can help you do that, I am happy. As always, if you have any questions, I do see the views on these and not who's viewing it, but I see the number of views and quite a few people are watching these. I've not gotten many questions though, so I'm either doing an amazing job or I need to encourage y'all to ask more questions. And so I know I probably am doing an amazing job, but I could do better. And so there may be things that you have questions about or things that I've done, whatever. So let me know in the comments. You can direct message me on Facebook, whatever you need to do. And we'll see you next time. And so all you guys, just take care. Hey, real quick before I let you go, I've got some exciting news. I just signed a big influencer partnership with Lowe's, the home improvement store. The place where you buy lawnmowers and lumber and garden stuff and patio stuff. And you go when something breaks in your house and you have no idea what it's going to take to fix it. So I get a commission from every sale that comes from my links. It's an exclusive partnership with them. I'm doing a big influencer thing as one of their creators. And so you'll see some really cool projects coming down the pipeline soon here on the farm. But I wanted to let you know in the show notes and also in the link tree on all my socials, there's a link to my Lowe's storefront. Do me a favor. Anytime you want to get something from Lowe's, if you'll hit that link, click on one of my products. It doesn't even have to be what you're looking for. Just click on the product through my storefront, and then you can search for the thing you're wanting to buy. And what that does is it tags it to my influencer program. I get points, I get a small commission, and Lowe's is actually, they have a staggered thing where they're going to reward me more and more and help me do bigger and bigger projects, eventually where I'll have some pretty cool farm DIY stuff going on there. So help me out with that, and I just wanted to tell you all about it because I am really excited about this partnership.